Welcome to the Vocational Education Podcast. Here's your host, Dr. Dan.
Can share around. Yeah, it's fun.
Seamless, yeah. I would have done my hair had I known.
Oh, get out.
We were appearing on video, but yeah, I'll have to
put your makeup on, put your hat on.
That's all right. How's things over with Spec?
Yeah, Spec Training's doing really well. We've changed as necessary in the last 9 to 10 months, and we're starting to see some nice changes. It's good to be able to put new staff on, which we're getting some really good people. Anyway, that's our business, and it's doing well. But today, look, I tell you, I'm so excited about finally getting some more episodes of the podcast out after last year.
Yeah, right.
We had 24, 25 episodes last year, and then it just all came to a screeching halt while we had to focus back on the business. And we had a lot of comments from people saying, I kind of miss the discussions you used to have. So I threw a couple of extra bones out there, but nothing like this. So it's been great to catch up with some people like yourself in the industry and get a bit of a heads up as to what the last year has been like for you guys and for others, and not just within vocational education directly, but all the supporting industries as well. It's been nice to get back online.
Yeah, sure. And reach out and connect.
Yeah. So speaking of that, your wonderful officers are in the background. So tell us a little bit about what's happened to Cloud Assess since January, February this year.
It was a bit of a shock, really, as I'm sure it was to you. Me and the business partner were watching the news, and just I can remember he phoned me up on the weekend. It was Sunday, and he said, "Have you seen the numbers and what's going on and all that sort of stuff?" And we just thought, bloody hell, we're going to have to send people home on Monday, sort of thing. And we made the call pretty quickly, and literally sent people home on the Monday, and we weren't sure where it was going to go. We had some new starters. There was two new people in the marketing team that it was literally their first day. We had to give them a computer each and a desk and all that sort of stuff and send them off on the way. And it was a very worrying time, as I'm sure you went through, as every business did in the country, went through a similar scenario where it was just so much uncertainty. And thankfully, I think the Australian government have done a pretty bloody good job compared to overseas of looking after us and doing the best they can, I suppose. But it's been a very interesting time for us as an online business. There's definitely been a period of heightened interest of getting in line and online, and a sense of urgency really for some of the providers. Some providers we work with who were on short courses recognized they were going to struggle very quickly because they just couldn't have that face-to-face interaction with their learners. So we had a few ripples pretty quick, but in the grander scheme, it's been a time where we've really enjoyed being able to help people get online promptly and support the changing needs of their business and kind of provide a bit of a solution where rather than another problem, we've kind of been helping people. As you've said, Specs had to kind of reshape yourselves. We've been part of that transformation for a lot of new clients. So it's been an exciting time, quite busy really, but yeah, we don't like to make too much noise about it. Obviously, there's a few people going through a pretty tough time.
Well, I was just talking to another individual before yourself, and he also is having a good time this year. And we do tend to underrate it a little bit, or not want to go out there and start to tell everybody how great things are because we've got empathy. But I also encourage you to speak out a little bit, saying that your platform has been almost made for this, almost made for the fact that, if you're going to have an online platform for assessment materials for basically your LMS really, then you're ahead of the curve. So, I'm really glad you've done well. So tell me more about your staff to start with. So we'll go into clients afterwards, but talk us through your staff. So you've obviously sent them home. So you've had to transition to, I guess, online or remote learning, remote working. Staffing.
It was relatively seamless for us. We have a number of systems in the office that were ready for it. Everything we do is, We use the G Suite, the Google Suite for, sharing content. We use tools like Slack for communicating, so with Slack you can have a video call or so everything just pretty quickly went to just heightened levels of kind of video chats and things like that. It was kind of going back to the humble beginnings when we didn't have an office in the very early days, and we'd be on the phone all the time and catching up. So it didn't feel too unnatural. I think it was a bit difficult. The longer it went on, more people kind of really wanted to get that kind of contact and that collaboration, and it's never the same. But with the right tools in place and the technologies available these days, I think it's easier than ever to kind of run that remote model. We'd always been hesitant in the past to kind of entertain working from home. We've always felt that the office environment really fosters that collaboration and that kind of innovative spirit and that team spirit and that culture that we're after. But based on having to go through this process, we kind of recognized, well, actually, what, there was a lot of areas where we were probably more productive, and now we've come back to the office. Now there's a number of the staff, and I mean, I come in every day, but I only live 5 minutes down the road. It's pretty easy for me. But most of the staff now work on a kind of work from home roster where they might work 2 or 3 days a week from home. And that flexibility is just kind of improved how everyone can kind of, you've got your kind of collaborative time a couple of days a week when people are coming in, but then they can really just get their heads down and just focus on their work and not have to bother with the commute into the office and all of that slog that you'd always have to get through. And it seems to be working really well. We're kind of really pleased with having the nudge, because it's something we probably wouldn't have ever done without being forced into it. So again, it's kind of another situation that we've kind of reflected on afterwards and kind of said, well, actually, that's probably changed the shape of the business for the better.
Yeah. Look, I can relate to that. I think when we made everything virtual, everyone was scared a little bit tentative about how this is going to work. And once we sort of mastered the use of the virtual classroom, everyone's going, wow, why didn't we do this before? This is working so well. We're getting people from, like, my last flight I actually hopped in was a tin can to Mount Isa.
Yeah.
And we were running out of a shed in Cloncurry, a group for a TAE course up there. And I flew back on that, sort of holding my nose, going, "Is this thing going to spread?"
Right.
And got off that plane, and that was the last flight I've had, and that I think was February in the earlier this year.
Yeah, I went down to Sydney in January or February, and we haven't flown since. So yeah.
And I just realised that what this is opening up, as you said, just a new way of thinking about business. In our case, we said, you know what, these people from Cloncurry, they've got high-speed internet. These people from central Queensland or Victoria's big, they're connected, and now they actually have a chance in their own time without hopping in a car, trying to find parking, as you said, trying to find our venues. That was always try to find this venue. Here it is on Google Maps, and they can just follow a link, and then they're in their training. That's the plus. And the negative, I think I can touch on what you said there about the collaboration, the culture of being in a group. I know from a company point of view, and I'll ask you this in a moment, from a company point of view, we've definitely found that, we're missing the being together more regularly and just shooting the breeze, so to speak. So we've adopted a new monthly meeting to make that a reality, at least virtually for now. But we are looking forward. We are having a Christmas party this year, for instance. We are going to do that, and it is going to be face to face. But we live in Queensland, so we're lucky. So with your guys, that I guess cultural change from working remotely. Has your view changed a little bit on just how important that is, or is it solidified more about how important it is to be in the office? Tell me a little bit about that.
I think it's given me a more open mind to the as I say, the working remotely and working from home and providing more flexible arrangements for people that are working here. We've got quite a few recent mums that have joined the team, and it's a kind of great win-win because they like a flexible working kind of arrangement. And it enables us to kind of mobilize a really kind of undertapped workforce that's out there. So I think just the fact it's opened our eyes to being more adaptable, I guess, to flexible arrangements has been a real positive. The cultural piece, it was great to get back, and everyone was keen to get away from the kids, I suppose, after the homeschooling for such an intense period.
When did you get back together? When did you open the office again?
Oh, well, I carried on coming in all the time because I was 5 minutes away from home, so I was the only person coming into the office for 3 months or so. Okay. Well, we're Queensland as well, so it would have been similar to you, but pretty much when the restrictions came out, we all started drifting back into the office and just kind of had this roster. But we insisted on 1 day a week when Mondays everyone comes in. So everyone's in the office. It's quite a busy day. Everyone has the catch ups, and we have the team weekly or monthly team meeting, just to share what's going on, what your priorities are, ask for help where you need help, and all that stuff. So I think we've kind of found some common ground or some middle ground that kind of gives us a bit more of a win-win across the whole team, which it's been, a kind of forced cultural shift, but one that we recognise as being positive. I think with the technology out there as well that's available, it's not like 20 years ago when Skype was pretty new and you're sitting on a webcam and you got this fuzzy picture or whatever. The technology is so much more usable now. It's all web-based, so you can get on it easy with any device. Just the quality of the technology and the interactions you can have and the different ways you can interact are so much more refined and so much more better finished than they ever have been. I think I'm pretty excited really about where the next steps are in terms of that technology and how it can kind of support these kind of new ways of working that seem to be some of the larger organizations you hear about, and whether it's the Googles or wherever the world are pretty much saying it's home office till Easter next year or whatever.
At least I think the way it's going.
That's right. So, and I think globally, I think in Australia, as we said, we're blessed really with such low infection rates. But I think globally, there's no line of sight really to this change in the way the world is at the moment for a long while. I think so. Soak it up.
Well, touch wood. By the time this comes out, let's hope we haven't had another wave, hey? Because that would be devastating. Let's not kibosh that one.
Yeah, I think everyone's been watching Victoria, and I really feel for the people down there. The people we work with that are down there have gone through a very tough time. But I think everyone's learned from that and thankful for, I suppose, the learning that we can take from that you can't drop your guard. You can't wait for a second. One infection is one too many. It needs to be investigated and traced, and otherwise it's just a threat to everyone. So hopefully that's something we can continue to resource.
So when it comes to Cloud Assess, there's two questions I've got really. The first one was, how does Cloud Assess benefit training organizations in this time or regardless? And also, what are the, just staying positive for a moment, what are some of the big positives that you've instilled in your business in the last, say, 6 months?
I've got to write these notes down, otherwise I forget what the point of the question was. Dan, sorry. So in terms of benefits, the Cloud Assess platform, it's not like an LMS, which is learning centric. LMSs have traditionally come from the perspective of transferring knowledge. And, they're very broadly and well adopted in kind of academia or academic scenarios. But when we created Cloud Assess, I had an RTO myself, and we recognized, look, we just wanted to, we still held with very high regard the face-to-face learning and the on-the-job learning. There's a necessary part of most trades anyway. So we said we didn't want anything for transfer of knowledge. It had to be on the job. It had to be learned by doing scenarios. But we wanted to recognize the benefit of a streamlined and just a smart way to do assessment. We were working with the mines. We had hundreds of trainees as part of our training assessment strategy. We'd have hundreds of trainees on the coal mine site. They worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We were there Monday to Thursday, office hours. We didn't know which trainee we'd bump into one day to the next. We didn't want to have to carry around a box of, hundreds of assessments just so we could pull it out and go through it and gather some evidence and put it away, or portfolios or what have you. So iPads were new, and we just said, iPads as the way to do it. It just made sense. And we just thought, oh, this is obvious. There must be a solution out there, and looked in the App Store and online, and just couldn't find anything that was really focused on gathering that evidence for the, based on the requirements of vocational education. So being the engineers we made a pretty crude model for ourselves using, it's kind of like Microsoft Access, but for Apple Macs, it's called FileMaker. So you can make these pretty whiz-bang databases that you could use on an iPad, and you could gather signatures and take photos and all of this sort of stuff. And it was very rigid in terms of it was replicated our format, but there was no flexibility there, but it was exactly what we needed. And when we showed different people in the vet space, we consistently got this energy and excitement that we need something like that. We need something like that. We need something like that. And I know a lot of RTOs that had said in the past, we've tried e-learning, it doesn't work. We can't engage with people. People drop off. There's not that same connection. So they still wanted the face-to-face, but they needed something that was robust for assessment. And that's where Cloud Assess came in, really. We didn't build it knowing what LMSs provided and working kind of from a Moodle platform or something like that. We actually started from scratch and said, what do we need to do assessment? What do we need to do for practical workplace observations, logbooks, all these different things, and created quite 100% a purely assessment-centric solution that then, since then, we've bolted, learning libraries and mapping and workflows and automations and all sorts of different things. But the core and the reason for being was purely assessment and gathering evidence. So the biggest benefit really is having that robust and streamlined process for gathering that evidence. In contrast to paper, a paper process is, and RTOs we spoke to back in the time that were still using paper felt almost constrained by these piles of paper. They knew how busy people were because of the size of the pile of the paper, but you wouldn't know what was in that paper until you'd processed it all. And
can I butt in for a second? I've got to tell you this. I won't. It was a very old RTO. In fact, its RTO number, I will share this. Its RTO number was 0049. It gives you an idea of how old this RTO was.
Yeah, right.
And so yes, people can look it up now. But when I was the RTO manager there was a basement, and that basement were so many archive boxes.
Yeah.
And I used to think, and even the concept of scanning those in for compliance, I thought, this isn't the Vatican. We can't do this.
No,
where are we going to start? And I remember when I came across her company. Did you know Simon Moore? Simon Moore or Lee Perlitz?
I know Lee Perlitz. Yeah. She's. I've worked with her on a range of things over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. You were raised by. Simon was looking at something similar in the mining industry at the time, and he talked about carrying the tablet on and being able to assess and click. And I thought, oh, you must have known him. But Lee, it was the first person to put me onto you. And I thought, what a great concept. So I've always really appreciated what you do. And, one day in the future, we will go with you.
Yeah, right.
One day.
Yeah.
And we really will. And I'm not even saying that as a lead. I really want to do it because, whilst we're doing everything electronically, capturing signatures, all that sort of thing, we've still got some pretty tacky ways of doing that. And we want to get past that for our students' sake, and I remember, watching an interview with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm not a huge fan, but Gary Vaynerchuk, he's one of those influencers, so people tend to listen to what he says. And he said in this interview, and he actually demonstrated it, he said that if you can make it as easy as possible for the end user to go from this point to this point, you're going to be the business that they want. And he demonstrated it using Alexa, and he just asked Alexa to buy him a pizza, I think it was. And he just said, Alexa, buy me a pizza. And because he'd pre-recorded the I guess the algorithm of what that meant for him, he knew that a pizza was now on its way.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
God help us. Okay.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that's what you guys are doing. And I love that. You're trying to make it easy.
Well, I can remember calling Lee, and I was very excited when, for us, it was just a smarter way to do assessment. It just made sense for the model. We could avoid carrying these records around, but my background is efficiency engineering, and it's a pretty dry subject. But we always look at a process and say, well, what are the things you can take out of that process? And people always had looked at assessment as having to be on paper. But suddenly we had this technology that meant actually we don't need a sheet of paper anymore. We can do this electronically. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means you don't need to print this sheet of paper. You don't need to move it here. You don't need to, staple it together. You don't need to bundle them up. You don't need to distribute them. You don't need to wait for them to come back, check if there's any missing quality. All these steps are just taken out of the process. So what you end up with is this, Alexa style process where, we're automatically enrolling people straight out of the student management system. The assessors electronically give it out to the students in the class, and then they submit it, and you can see where it is through that entire journey. So not just from an efficiency perspective, have you got this streamlined process where you can't lose anything, and it's really rapid in terms of as soon as it's done, it's ready for marking, and we can put controls in place. So if there's errors such as questions not answered or assessments not marked to make a unit result, we can flag them to say, well, there might be a problem here. You might want to check this before you finalize the result. And all these things you just can't do with paper. But now there's kind of tagged onto that, there's a very heightened awareness, especially with the Ask for audit changes on student experience. The experiential part from a user's perspective and a student's perspective, we're really focusing on trying to provide this end-to-end and immersive solution for the learner so that, they can go through their learner journey. They've got a smart and kind of frictionless interface that's really easy to use and really easy to understand what's going on and what the priorities are and where the work is and what the results are. And they can just go through this journey. They've got access to the learning content, or, it might be HTML or videos or documents or whatever, but it just guides them through this process and they're out the other side almost effortlessly. I'm sure there's a bit of work involved, but that's the idea.
Yeah, and obviously you mentioned that it's been exciting seeing the changes and the updates in the technology, especially the virtual video technology, etc. I know you guys do have the facility to upload video and all that sort of thing as well. Talk us through, for instance, if you're training a tradesperson or you're required to have an observation of someone doing like make a presentation or whatever it's called now, make presentations in the BSB training package. How does the assessor or how does the assessor actually capture that now and pop it through Cloud Assess and then tick it off?
Well, they literally have a virtual form in front of them that is a checklist of all the criteria they want, and if they need to upload a video at any point, they'd be. And the assessments are down to the different RTO's design. Every RTO will break it up, interpret the requirements differently, or want to create a slightly different slant on the process they want to take people through. But they might have a section where the student reads the instructions on the tablet, and then they could sign on the tablet to say, yeah, I've read the instructions, I understand what I'm asked for, before they even start the assessment. So we found that's a great practice to put in kind of WHS kind of or high risk kind of scenarios where people might be putting themselves at risk as part of the assessment process. But essentially the assessor just have the checklist of items on a simple checklist in front of them. They might have date pickers that they can drop on, signature fields, upload fields, quick inline checkboxes, drop down lists, all sorts of stuff just to enable them to quickly and easily confirm the criteria that's been observed in line with your requirements. And at different points, you might want to just upload short and sharp videos. We find the longer videos it's harder to kind of create those bite-sized chunks. And so, we tend to recommend that people kind of break them up and just do bite-sized chunks and capture those and mark them and capture them and mark them, rather than doing a half-hour video for each student. And with video on devices now, that's probably, I don't know, a blooming gigabyte or something like that. So they do bite-sized chunks. They can see them uploading as they go, and they just know when, as soon as they hit the result button on that assessment, it's done and it's in the hands of the RTO, completed, signed and sealed.
Do you think the regulators probably have to get a little bit more up to date with what they recognise as valid evidence then? Because, for example, you just mentioned half-hour videos. Yeah, they are absolutely incredibly space consuming. But there are a lot of qualifications, like I know with bakers, with apprentices, with I know in my own field in the TAE, people have to deliver 40-minute presentations.
Yeah.
Some auditors, without disparaging anyone, but some auditors might want to see where's the video evidence. How do you know they did 40 minutes? Oh, well, we've got the checklist here. And they said, yeah, but that's not evidence, you know,
Yeah.
and you get in. So how have you found that? Do you think they need to sort of move with the times, or do you think they are ready with the times? What's your experience there?
It would seem, some auditors have, got a bit more up to date than others, I guess, but we're not finding much friction there in terms of electronic records. We've always had signatures on there. We have for every record that we've got in our system, we've got a chronological timeline of all the activities. So when it was accessed by the student, when it was, accessed by the assessor, at what point they've done saves or submitted the record, when it was created, through to when it's closed off and the results finalized. You've got all these timeline activities that you can always see. So we've found that auditors, once they've and more and more auditors are aware of our product now than ever. They seem to be a lot more welcoming and kind of open to the level of rigor that you've got behind these electronic records that you wouldn't have with a paper document. With a paper document, traditionally in the past, you might give a learner a first attempt on a knowledge test, and it comes back with an incorrect answer, and you might say, "Oh, can you just have another go at that question for me?" and get them to do a response, and then, lo and behold, there's never an incorrect or assessment. It doesn't appear to be right on the first time. Well, with Cloud Assess, we keep all your attempt history as well, so you've got absolutely clean records that show, there was a failed attempt, we issued another attempt, here's the feedback we gave them that's all captured, and here's the second attempt. And again, that's in your timeline, so you can see all that there. That with paper records, you just wouldn't have that level of kind of hygiene behind all the facts and data that are just available electronically. We've actually got a few clients now that have actually given access to their account to auditors, so auditors can go through on certain courses and just have a look around for themselves. That seems to have worked well, but I'm sure I'd be a bit nervous if I was back in my RTO days giving an auditor access to the filing cabinets. But and it's been done, and it's worked, and complete transparency to what's going on.
Well, that's what they like to see. And I think, so Cloud Assess is very customizable.
You just dropped off there, sorry.
Everything, customizable to every RTO's needs, which I really appreciate. And because every RTO, as you said, interprets things slightly differently as far as how they record the evidence and things like that. With regards to how the product fits in with other student management systems and stuff like that, how does that work?
Yeah, we've got off-the-shelf integrations with quite a few of the student management systems now. The big four, the VETRACs, the Job Readies, the WiseNets, etc. We have got an API as well that we're happy to adapt. Some of the larger organisations we work with don't tend to use a traditional student management system. They might use Salesforce, for example, and use plugins on Salesforce, and they might have a team of people that actually support that on the larger businesses, and that's fine. So we've integrated to Salesforce in the past. We also have
Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah. We don't integrate with Excel, but you can export by CSV, I suppose. But we've also got clients that use like SAP systems, SAP systems like SuccessFactors and things like that. And we're working on integrations that tend to be a bit more bespoke. But I think we're in an age now where, and we see it day to day in apps that we use all the time, whether it's, the Apple Health app, and you can connect it to Strava, where you might connect your rides and collect information about your rides and share that with Apple. Integration is so standardized now, and the technology behind that is so robust and well defined that it's very easy for us to connect to different systems and push information or pull information based off different triggers. So Cloud Assess, the standard is we've got an online enrollment solution, so you can have your learners online enroll with our solution, and then we'll push those enrollments to your student management system. And as students are awarded an outcome, you can fire that result on a live basis. So we don't poll them in the evening and wait for them all to collect up. We fire them as they occur. So that it's always like for like in your two systems, and that seems to work pretty well.
Oh, that's great. And that's all the VETMIS compliant with the enrollment process?
Yeah, so we collect the VETMIS stuff and push it over to the student management systems. And then, there's all sorts of other reporting requirements. We do a bit of smart and skilled data sets for some of our clients that operate down in New South Wales. We've got a reporting engine that we can customize reports in there as well. So, it's all, I suppose from our perspective, the product has never been complete. We've always continued to say, well, what's the next thing? What's the next thing that people see as most valuable, and how's it going to, enhance their experience as a customer or a user? And that changed a bit when COVID came about. As I said, we were always very assessment centric, and COVID kicked in, and we said, right, what do we need to do to support people with kind of a bit more of a distance learning approach? So we made some changes to the content library so you could host a better range of content. We made some changes to, we created a collaboration space. So you had a course posts area so you could collaborate with your cohort and share comments and communication with the cohort. We've just released a couple of months ago now a new learner app, which is a web-based interface. So you can access it through your phone or your iPad or your laptop. And that's just a lot more cleaner, simpler experience for the learner to navigate through. And that's just about to be complemented with messaging. So we've got a full messaging solution in there so that actually you can interact with your assessors in a very simple and kind of intuitive way. You can connect to your assessors, ask them questions, and get responses in a kind of message bank, just much as you would with, Microsoft, or what would you call it, Facebook Messenger or something like that. Yeah.
Well, that actually leads me to my last question, I guess, which is what's in the future now for Cloud Assess? What sort of things are maybe you're working on right now, or what sort of things do you see maybe for the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think, there was a sudden push on the virtual classrooms and all sorts of things like that. We just surveyed our client base just a couple of weeks ago, and it's quite interesting because depending on who you ask, you get a different answer. So the assessors want different things to what the admins want, and it's very clear and different what they want. The owners of the business or the managers have got a slightly different perspective as well. So we'll always be keen to provide as much value as we can and continue to support the vocational education space. We've got a few ideas around innovations that I won't share with you. But we've got a few things that will be coming in weeks and months. Like, as I said, the messaging's coming. We're updating an announcement features so that it's just easier to connect and work with people remotely.
That's a nice tease. I like that.
Say again, sorry.
So that's a nice tease.
Yeah.
Tell us about it right now, but it's coming.
There's a little idea I've had for a while, and I think it's really exciting.
Is it a robot? Is it a robot?
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately
it's all
not.
about robots and AI now. Come on.
No, it's not. But I think it's a real opportunity to really enhance assessment practices in the vet space. So I'm pretty excited about it. But resourcing it when we've got 100 priorities is on the list of priorities. Unfortunately, I'd like to do it tomorrow. But yeah, so a bit of a teaser there, I'm afraid, Dan.
No, I like that. That's good. Keep the audience guessing. Coming back. Yeah, no, I like it. As I said, I've always loved your product, and it's been so great to catch up with you today. And we'll probably post this, definitely this side of Christmas, definitely. But isn't Christmas coming way too fast?
Yeah, I just looked at the calendar. I'm like, I've got one free weekend, which is weekend after next before Christmas, and then it's the kids' holidays and crazy. So, yeah.
Well, it's good in one way.
Yeah, probably.
All right,
First world problems, right?
Yeah, first world problems, and we've got jobs, and we don't want to start worrying too much about the fact that we're doing okay.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, well, it's been an absolute pleasure again, Rob, and it was nice catching up with Alex last year as well. So it was good to have a chat with him, and I think maybe we won't wait so long next time. We'll have another chat and see what things like maybe in the middle of next year.
Yeah, maybe we could host you, and I could throw a few questions at you, and we could do a bit of a flip round and see how that goes.
Sure. No, happy to abide. Yeah, that'd be great fun. All right, my friend. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and just let everybody know how they can get hold of Cloud Assess, what sort of things may be on offer through the conference or whatever, and how they can maybe contact you directly as well.
Yeah, we're always available on www.cloudassess.com.au. But by all means, reach out to me if you're interested in anything that we've spoken about on rob@cloudassess.com.au, and we'd be happy to put together a trial and help people understand what the experience is that we create.
Great. And what people are you looking for at the moment? Do you want to put an ad out for any good techs out there? Who are you looking for?
Yeah, we're definitely looking for a a couple of coders. So if anyone knows anyone that's good on Ruby on Rails, we're always hot to meet those sorts of candidates. And yeah, we're really excited about, we're looking to grow the sales team, but what we've realized is actually we're looking for someone with RTO management experience that's probably looking for a bit of a career change, but someone that really understands the value of, you know, more efficient processes and you know, more efficient practices and the importance of compliance and everything that we do, that would really be able to articulate that and connect well with a client base or a prospect base. So not necessarily a salesperson, but yeah, we're certainly looking for someone to kind of build on those relationships and help people understand the value that we provide. So if you know anyone that's out there, yeah, that's a passion about the industry and able to really understand the value that we provide, because we're a niche product. You know, it's not like, you know, finding someone to sell Facebook or Instagram accounts. It's, you know, it's quite a niche industry. But if you know anyone, let me know, Dan.
Oh, well, we'll keep an eye out. Absolutely. And hopefully whoever listens to this podcast, so there you go, promote the podcast. You never know. Someone might go, I know someone.
Yeah, there we go. They've got my email address now, so that's good.
Excellent. Well, again, thanks for spending your time with us today. And yes, enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I look forward to catching up soon.
Excellent. All the best, Rob.
Right. Cheers, mate.
Bye for now.